After weeks of briefings from the Labour government and the Treasury in particular, preparing the country for Labour to break its manifesto pledge not to put any of the main three taxes, to prepare us for the need to be fiscally responsible over the need to keep political promises, and Rachel Reeves holding, frankly, quite bizarre breakfast briefings to the media, we suddenly find out that despite all of this preparation for the country, that tax rises aren't needed after all. As it turns out that the forecast for the United Kingdom is actually better than they thought. Well, they say better, what they actually mean is slightly less worse. So how is it that Rachel Reeves from the Treasury could get their own forecast so wrong for so long that they were preparing us for all this bad news and suddenly it's not needed? Have things suddenly changed in the external environment, caught them by surprise, or are they just not very good at their jobs? And you may say, oh, it's the OBR's fault. They've only just told them that things aren't quite as bad, that productivity and growth are going to be slightly better than they said, and therefore the black hole is not 30 billion, it's actually only about 20. And Rachel Reeves has decided that she can find enough spare change on the back of the sofa not to put up income tax. However, this isn't strictly true. There were reports in the papers 3 or 4 weeks ago that the forecast was wrong and that they didn't need to go quite as hard or heavy on taxes to close that back hole, but apparently they either weren't aware or ignored it, or maybe they were just prepping the ground just in case. Either way, it has shown the Treasury to be slightly incompetent and also to be politically inept, which is sort of what we've come to expect over the last year and a bit. So, well, hey, we don't need to worry about taxes going up and we're all going to be better off. Well, no. You see, there's still 20 billion to be found. And rather than put up one of the main taxes, income tax, national insurance or VAT, what Rachel Reeves is going to do is play around with lots of little things, muddle through, as I said in a previous video, in order to close that gap. And when you do that, several things happened. None of them, frankly, are good. So firstly, taxes, any tax, are distortionary. When you tax something, you change the behaviour of people. Doesn't matter what it is, they change. Which is why having simple taxes are usually better, they're easily understood, and they minimise the changes of behaviour, so you get as close as possible to optimum economic activity. When you mess around with all sorts of different taxes, then you have issues. It causes distortionary behaviour, and it happens all the way through, not just amongst the rich, but also the poor. So a simple example is, if you have a high VAT, those with that much money choose not to buy things because they can't afford them. Whereas if you had lower VAT, they would buy more and you get more economic activity. And that happens all the way through the tax strata and the income strata. So firstly, by making all these small changes to find a billion here and a billion there, Rachel Reeves is probably going to do some damage to the economy and reduce economic growth. And secondly, and probably more important, Rachel Reeves never had a black hole. Black hole suggests that there is a finite size to the circumference of the hole and its depth, and once you filled it, you could walk over it and carry on. That's not the case. There was never a black hole. There is a current gap between expenditure and income, and that gap needs to be bridged. But what Rachel Reeves and the government is actually facing is a chasm. It's a chasm that's widening into the future. What do I mean? Well, if you look at the three most expensive government expenditures, so that's NHS, welfare and pensions, they constitute approximately 50% of total expenditures. And they are set to rise by just over 4% in real terms over the next 5 years. Whereas the economy is scheduled to grow at 1% or less, and tax receipts are related to the size of growth in the economy. So you have half the costs going up at over 4% and income going up at 1%. So straight away, you've got a structural gap that's getting wider and wider and wider, just like the chasm in front of you. And so just because she doesn't need to put up income tax or deal with cuts in costs now, doesn't mean she won't in the future. And all she's done is put pain off for another day. So well done for getting away with it this time, Rachel, assuming you do. We'll see you on November 26th. But please, let's have some more realism and some realistic plans for the long term. Ta-da!